out of the following three choices, which would make the greatest impact or give you the greatest results in profitability? Number one, increasing your price by 1%. Number two, decreasing your expenses, your overheads by 1%, or increasing your volume by 1%. So increasing price by 1%, decreasing your expenses by 1%, or increasing volume by 1%. Which of those three gives you the greatest impact on your profitability?
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And today we're going to have a conversation around and about the power of one. Dr. Stephen, this is such a simple and yet powerful concept and a conversation that we as CEOs and leaders need to have. We're going to be asking a very critical question during this podcast as well. And we have an incredible giveaway for you, the Remarkable Money Metrics. You want to get this. If you don't have this tool, this is a critical tool for you as a CEO to have. So make sure you download that tool. And hey, if you've been enjoying the CEO podcast, we would love to hear from you. If you haven't left us a review, please do. If you haven't shared it, please share. We are on a mission to help as many chiropractors, help as many people as possible. We are on a mission. And Dr. Stephen, we are diligently working towards it. And I'm thrilled about the great progress we've had in helping more chiropractors. I know recently in the recent years, being able to help more students now, which has been energizing for me, I know for you. And so we're committed to that. So please do help us help more chiropractors. That's the greatest compliment that you can give us, is to simply share this with a friend, a colleague. Again, we know that in business, it is wicked hard. We know that being a chiropractor is for sure countercultural and swimming upstream. And so maybe this podcast is the 1%, the one thing that will make a difference in another chiropractor's life. So today we're talking about the power of one. It may just be one episode. It just may be one share. It may just be one review. But with the power of one, don't ever underestimate. May we never underestimate the power of one thing. It could be just one encouraging word. It could be going one extra mile, right? It's that one thing that you can do each and every day. And that's one of the things, Dr. Stephen, that I know for me as a dad, I'm always thinking about what's one thing that I can do today that's going to help my wife know I love her? What's one thing I can do today for my kids, let them know how much I love them, to come alongside them? You don't have to do 10 things. If you could just think of one thing, it makes such a big difference. So, Dr. Stephen, I'm excited to get into a conversation with you today about the power of one.
Yeah, Dr. Pete, you'd never know it looking at our hats, because today we are subtly displaying our allegiance to our respective great baseball teams. Some of you ballers might have picked up on that. Dr. Pete and I are fully aligned in almost everything, except for who's the greatest team in baseball. All right. So, and also, as you were saying that, I was thinking, for those of you who follow us on the podcast, that's awesome. Thank you so much. If you enjoy it, please give us a follow, give us a like, give us some love, give us a review. That helps us tremendously. As you know, reviews, that is the currency of social media, right? So please take a minute, give us a 5-star review, write a comment. We love to read the comments. And as always, guys, we're always taking requests. So if there's something you'd want to hear us have a conversation about and unpack, send us questions, send us your biggest challenge, your biggest problems, give us the exact information that we need to be able to talk that down and help you solve your issues and reach your goals. We'd love to do that. And some of you prefer to consume your long-form content on YouTube. Well, we're on YouTube as well. We record all these. YouTube is, I think, a much better experience if it's possible for you to sit down and do that, because very often we'll share graphics, right? So a lot of the giveaways, like today we're giving away the Remarkable Money Metrics, which is a PDF, right? So we'll have that up on the screen as we talk about it. And that makes it just more engaging. And of course, you get to see our handsome mugs instead of just listening on your earbuds on the treadmill. However you're consuming it, we're just glad you are. So let's get into today's conversation. We're going to talk about the power of 1%. This is a conversation that we actually this resurfaced for us yesterday because we actually went through this with our business coach during our quarterly pulse meeting or our quarterly board meeting. We were talking about how to make a bigger impact and how to make a bigger income, right? We started the conversation off talking about profit because, as you guys know, revenue is about vanity, profit is about sanity, and cash flow is king. So that was the conversation we were having when we were talking about the economics of our business. When we talk about the coaching business, the Remarkable Practice coaching business, and we were just scrutinizing what could we do to become more profitable, right? So you guys know the truth: no money, no mission. Right. So if our mission is to serve humanity through all y'all, right? So guess what? We need to be reaching more of you, right? So no money, no mission. You've got to be able to invest in what it takes for you to attract more like-minded, on mission, on purpose chiropractors, right? So we have to have the money that it takes to invest in the people, the A players that cost more, frankly, but produce more, right? So you have to have the money to be able to invest in the technology that you'll need to deliver excellence and deliver a remarkable experience and outcomes for you guys, right? So more money is the key to this, right? And making sure that you looking at that from, it's one thing to say, hey, we run a multi-million-dollar business. That's awesome. But one number is a fact, Dr. Pete. Two numbers are a story. I want the story. I want to know how profitable you are, right? So what's your profit? What's your profit margin, right? So everybody loves to talk about top line revenue. I like to talk about bottom line profit, right? Because it's one part of the story that tells us how efficient and how effective you are as a business. In essence, as a wellness provider, I look at this business like it's a living organism. And one of the outputs I'm looking for is profitability, right? So I want to see leveraged operations. I want to see transferable value, and I want to see distributable cash, which is another way of saying profit, right? So making sure that the business is making money. So let's talk about this concept of the 1% rule. So, I'll just lay down the academics of it really quickly, Dr. Pete, and then we can have a conversation around how it breaks our guessing mechanism, our guessing machine as entrepreneurs. I admit it. I kind of got caught up in this one, but I love this because at the end of the day, we're going to encourage you to have an and conversation, not an or conversation. Today's about prioritization and just being super clear about this, right? So very simple question. Of the following three, which would make the greatest impact on your profit and your profitability? So everybody, if for my note takers, underline profit, right? So out of the following three choices, which would make the greatest impact or give you the greatest results in profitability? Number one, increasing your price by 1%. Number two, decreasing your expenses, your overheads by 1%, or increasing your volume by 1%. So increasing price by 1%, decreasing your expenses by 1%, or increasing volume by 1%. Which of those three gives you the greatest impact on your profitability?
Dr. Stephen, while you're listening, and if I could have just paused, I would just leave it there and let you think about that for a minute and then answer the question. So I'm curious what all of you wrote down. And like our business coach says, write it down before we go over it. So, because we want to know what you said. Don't allow us to influence your answer. So hopefully you take a minute and you actually write that down, or if at a minimum it's in your mind what you believe it is.
And even put them in order. Like, what do you think? Get your business muscle going. Is like, in what order would they impact profitability?
Exactly. So you asked which one is how would have the greatest impact, which would be number one. But let me ask you, the second question would be, and then what would you say would be in second place and third place? Because there's an actual order. So what would be your order in that scenario? And Dr. Stephen, what we're talking about here is the enterprise value drivers. I mean, we're really talking about things that drive value for the enterprise, for your business as well. So we're having a business conversation that's real time as of like right now. It's 2024. If you're listening to this episode, we're in 2024, like real time right now. What can you do to drive value, drive that bottom line profitability? But you're also thinking in terms of long term as a CEO, even as an investor coming up above your business. What are you thinking about is what is driving the value and the enterprise value of your organization? So think about it from above as well, because if you come up above it, you start to think long term. You think about the economic value drivers, things that drive the value of your enterprise. What are those things? And,
that's right. It's going to be a sales multiple times profit, right? So that's, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
And as a CEO, it's we don't think about this enough, actually. And I know this as a fact, because whenever we often have our meetings, and this is not the thing that comes up. We're not actually having conversation. We don't carve out time, 30 minutes, an hour, to really think about this and answer these questions and have these brutal facts conversations. So this might be the first time you've ever had this conversation as you're listening to this podcast. And you might be new in business thinking, well, that doesn't really apply to me. And the answer is it absolutely does. I wish we look back, we always say we speak from and teach from scar tissue. We wish we would have known this and been thinking this from day one. There's things that I wish I opened my practice with this 100% thinking about. So if you're earlier in you're in launch or in build listening to this podcast, which is awesome, kudos to you. Well done. Like, this is the way you need. This is your mindset. This is the right mindset. If you're already in scale or well into scale, or maybe you're on your way moving towards a graceful and hopefully profitable exit, this is absolutely the conversation that you need to be having. This is a business conversation. This is about legacy. This is about future. And so Dr. Stephen, I love this giveaway that we're going to be giving, going through this tool. And so I'm going to let you answer the questions, since you presented the quiz, so you get to be the teacher here on this one. So let's dig in.
That's very good. So the question, I'm going to reframe it, right? So you get to, or repeat it, so you get to think through the answer. Which one of the following would have the greatest impact on your profit of your business? Take all your existing performance numbers, right? Take your business as it is right now. If you were to increase your price by 1%, or decrease your overheads, like your cost to deliver, or by 1%, or increase your volume by 1%, which would have the greatest impact on your profit, right? So you've probably thought this through, because it's a loaded question. Obviously, the way I'm asking the question, you're like, okay, so it's counterintuitive probably, right? So, because I think, Dr. Pete, I'll speak for both of us, because you and I had a sidebar conversation on this. As entrepreneurs, especially as mission-driven chiropractic entrepreneurs, what do we think about? We always think about more, right? But what does more mean to us? It means more impact. It means more outreach. It means more humans. It means more patients, more adjustments. Right? That's what more means. We're going to do more, which of course, money follows value. We want to deliver more value, so we'd have more revenue, right? So you'd grow the business by increasing your volume of services delivered, or units sold, or revenue, right? So that's what we think about, is like the way to increase your profit would be to serve more, give more, love more, serve more, make a bigger impact, make a bigger income. That's what we say it all the time, right? So it's about growing the business. Oh, we grew from 1.2 million to 1.5 million. Okay, that's still all top line revenue, right? So it's like that growth that we're talking about is increasing volume. Okay. We also think a lot about costs, right? So it's like, man, can I really afford to do that marketing, or really can I add that other team member, or what could I afford to pay that associate doctor, really that much? Or is like we start thinking about like, what is my rent, my utilities, like literally it's like, I want to increase my profit. Well, I've got to reduce my expenses. The answer is yes. And is that going to give you the biggest impact, okay, to your profit, right? So given the choice of these three, so obviously that lands us on that number one, okay, which is increasing your price, right? So at the end of the day, the thing that's going to give you the biggest return, like immediately right to the bottom line, is increasing your price. Okay, so guys, this is where the low hanging fruit is. And if we're talking about a sequence, it's going to be price, right? So you want to increase your prices. Okay, so increasing your price by 1% is going to give you the largest impact on your profit to the bottom line. Secondly would be decreasing your costs, right? So your expenses, right? Your overheads. That's going to have the second biggest impact on your profit. And the third, counterintuitively, is actually increasing your volume, doing more, serving more, giving more, loving more, serving more. All great, right? But has the least impact on your profit, because you got to think about margin, profit margin. You're running that same volume through a margin, let's say you're operating at a 35% profit margin. That's versus increasing your price, which is now 100%. 100% goes to the bottom line, right? So, Dr. Pete, I like to use just a number to illustrate this. Like, let's say, just for a second, let's say that you had a $100 product that cost you $90 to produce. Your profit would be $10 on that, right? $100 product, $90 to make it, yet a $10 profit, which is a 10% margin. Okay. If you were to increase the cost of that product to $105, it still cost you $90 to make it. Your profit just went from $10 to $15, which is a 15% margin, which you've just increased your margin by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
You increased your price by 5%. You increased your profit by 50%. Right now, people are like steering their cars off the road, trying to hit like, wait a minute, Francis, say that again. Like hit that 15-second, 30-second rewind. Say that one more time. So at the end of the day, you have to like use real numbers, because I'll be honest, I learned this power of 1%. I learned this from Vern Harnish when I read Scaling Up like 15 years ago. Like I learned it then. Okay. I learned it. And and then I turned the page and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. What was really interesting when we ran the numbers with the Remarkable Practice as a company with our real numbers.
Yes. And
we showed, well, what happens when you 1%, the example I just gave was increasing by 10%. So it's like by a 1% increase, it showed what happens when you're running a business at volume, right? So the impact, I mean, you saw what happened when we did all three of them. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to the bottom line, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a line item, right? So it was a significant impact to the bottom line profit of the business by tweaking 1% here, 1% here, 1% there.
And as a chiropractor, Dr. Stephen, I think this, hopefully this lands really well. You know, one of the concepts we teach our patients is that the longer you're healthy, the healthier you'll be, right? The longer you're sick, the sicker you'll be. There's compounding value to health over time. And what you're talking about is like the compound effect right there. And, you know, we teach people, you know, patients in our Justatorium, we teach them about, you know, making 1% improvements in their health and how that's going to have a ripple effect over the course of their expression of health for years and decades to come. And the power is that, and oftentimes that comes over time. This is an immediate change. Like it immediately changes the bottom line. It's
the day you do it.
The day you do it, it immediately shifts. And for a lot of you who are listening, actually, which I appreciate about this group that we get to work with, is many of you have done this actually. And because you knew you needed to right size your prices. You needed to do that. And for many of you who have been, you know, coaching with us and or following us on the podcast, you know, this isn't the first time we've ever talked about this. So, you know, who you are, who's done this, and you've seen the effect, because I've looked at your lead flow worksheets, right? I've studied your vitals. I've seen, you know, what has happened as well as you have. And that is powerful. And you don't need to make excuses for that. That's business. And you're doing a great job in growing your business. So if you're listening to this, Dr. Stephen, and this is probably a whole nother episode, but if you're listening to this, you might ask the question, well, how do I know if I should do this? When should I do this? Like, right? What's the right time for me to do this? And what's the percentage? Like you said, you gave an example of a 5%, but you're giving an example on this podcast on 1%. So, you know, answering some of those questions, those are deeper questions, right, Dr. Stephen? And we, you know, it's not, that's a beyond the scope of this podcast kind of a question. But so there are rules to these things. And that's why the Remarkable Money Metrics PDF would be a good guide, I believe, for you as a listener, as a reference point for you. And knowing that, you know, you operate in three seats inside of your business. You are an operator, right? You're someone who's giving and serving within the context, probably as a practitioner within the context of your business. You're a CEO, which means you're working on the business. That's one of the reasons why you're even listening to this podcast, because you've recognized, man, I got to work on my business. I need to carve out more time, create more space for me to work on my business. Then you come up above the business and you work and as an investor. And that's really when you're working on your business. This is an investor and a CEO discussion we're having right here, Dr. Stephen. So that a tool is a great reference for you as a CEO to reference where your business is at and when would be the right time and what would be the right amount.
Yes, I don't want to. I'm so glad you went there, Dr. P, because we don't want to oversimplify this. Okay,
right.
So at the end of the day, the language of business is accounting, and if you don't speak accounting, you don't understand your business, right? So I don't want to oversimplify this, but at the same time, there's so much truth in simplicity, right? So it's like okay, now let's figure out all of the other questions, because it should, when you hear something that's truth, it's typically simple, right? So it resonates because they're like, okay, yeah, I get that. That's a law of the jungle. Okay. So, and then what it does is it creates a better set of questions, right? So the better set of questions that you probably go to, if you understand what we just said, was, all right, so I need context for like, am I on track right now with what I'm charging and what have you, right? So am I on track right now relative to the rest of the profession, right? So how about with my overheads? Am I on track with where my overheads should be? Is there some low-hanging fruit there with that, right? So am I on track with where my profitability is, et cetera? That's why we wanted to share with you the Remarkable Money Metrics, which is a list of standards, and it's meant for you to take to your bookkeeper, to your accountant, or to your fractional CFO. Like we have a CFO. Like the Remarkable Money program is having a fractional CFO who does this work with you when it comes to like your 3 reports, your balance sheet, your P&L, your cash flow report. It's the cash flow report we're talking about right now, right? So that's what my CFO does for the business, is he has these conversations with us. And there are contextually other questions that we're asking around this, right? Like, what is your revenue per employee ratio? Where are you on what's your next break point? You know, if your break points are over $250,000, where are you on your next break point, right? So where are you relative to the rule of 40, right? So if what I'm saying to you right now, guys, is foreign with the questions I'm asking you, like, what are you talking about? That's the language of business that I'm trying to describe to you, right? So you have to have this level of insight. And then thirdly, you've got to recognize that there'll be some competing metrics here. Okay. So don't just hear, oh, I'm just going to raise my prices. If 1% does it, I'm going to raise it by 15% or 25%. Right. So it's like, you can't be reckless here, but you have to be courageous. You've got to recognize that you've got to test, and it's called price testing. You've got to be able to test the market. And there's going to be a couple competing numbers on the other side of the seesaw, so to speak, that you've got to check out. Like, for example, if you increase your prices, it may decrease your referrals. If you increase your prices, it may decrease new patient opportunities. If you increase your prices, you may decrease conversions. If you increase your prices, that may compete with your stick rate, okay, and retention. You guys follow me? It's like there's a balancing act going on all the time. And that is what it means to have a level of sophistication in business where you actually speak the language of business, okay? To recognize it's like, okay, so I don't stress at all about it because I have my metrics. I don't have emotions. I have metrics, and I know what numbers to look at. 1 number is a fact. 2 numbers are a story, Dr. Pete. What we do know is the simple truth about it is if we're right now having a conversation about one metric, profitability, then between the 3 choices of increasing my price by 1%, decreasing my costs and overheads by 1%, or increasing my volume by 1%, in order, the elements that will have the greatest impact on your bottom line and your profit is increasing, number 1, increasing your price by 1%, decreasing your costs by 1%, and then increasing your volume by 1%. This is not an or conversation, it's an and conversation.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
All right, everybody. I'm Dr. Chris, Coach Chris from the Remarkable Practice, and I'm excited to host this segment of the podcast here today, and excited to have Justin Maxwell on with us from Big Life Financial. Big Life Financial has been a great success partner for several years, and let's just kick it off, Justin, with you giving us a minute to introduce yourself, tell our audience about your story.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chris. I really appreciate that. So my name is Justin Maxwell. I'm a partner in the firm called Big Life Financial. We're based out of Salt Lake City, but we work nationwide. We have clients almost in every state around the country. My personal story is that I came to a realization that my impact, my message, my calling in life had a ceiling if I didn't figure out my money. And so as I went through my money journey and learned how to save more money, how to keep more money, how to efficiently handle the tax situation, how to safely grow it, and how to create a bigger vision for myself, I eventually found my spot here, and that's exactly what we do for clients is we help them figure out their money, figure out how to keep more of their money, how to get those saved dollars into assets, and really push into what type of impact are you looking for, and how can more wealth help you reach a bigger impact. And so my journey reflects the same journey we take clients on.
I love that for sure. I mean, we're huge on impact at the Remarkable Practice. Of course, we're helping others help others, and really our mission is to restore health. And we do that by helping chiropractic offices improve the ability to have impact. And you're exactly right. Really, it's the equation is more money equals more impact.
Yes.
And I love that part of how you describe that. So for the chiropractic office, give us a sense of what specifically do you help chiropractic owners with?
Yeah. So our at a high level is what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring them a family office setting. For chiropractors that don't know what that term is, a family office is typically reserved for families that have a net worth of 200 million or more. So an ultra wealthy family. And a family office is a group of financial professionals that they hire specifically for them. So they're not moving around to other families or other individuals. They're that family's financial professional team, from accounting to investing to insurance to estate planning to business exits. They're all on the same team and they're only working for that family. Now, our goal is to provide them those type of services in the exact same way, just for them. So most of them have the potential through the TRP systems, what we've observed, to really scale their practice and get good, solid systems in it so that they're increasing the value. They're trying to bring more money in. They're trying to create more value. There's a lot of financial pieces in there. There's tax, there's investing, there's insurance, there's protecting it, there's thinking for the estate. So what Big Life Financial does is we provide them with a platform of professionals that can help them in all aspects of that, that are all collaborating for them. So they're not getting conflicting advice. They're not getting random things from my financial advisor, which is different from my accountant, which is different from my insurance person. Everyone's speaking the same language and everyone's trying to work for the betterment of the chiropractor and on their journey towards that impact that they're looking to make.
And I think that's such an important thing that our profession can use. Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for being a success partner with the Remarkable Practice, because we really do coach remarkable practices, and we all need this sort of help. I know that, in poking around on your website, good information on there. And one thing that stood out to me was this 3 key elements for financial success. And some of what you just talked about, planning, tools and products, execution, are all wrapped up in there. So tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you guys help in all aspects of that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct. It is very much because the financial industry is just chock full of differing opinions and differing advice, and you should do this, you should do that, or this is the type of path you should go on. So it can cause confusion, but the confusion we find is that people don't take action on anything, or they'll meddle in things, but they could get a lot deeper with it and have a lot more value from it. But because they're worried, because they hear that there's something else that they might be potentially should be doing, they don't actually dive in, and it costs them money. They're losing money by not diving fully into a strategy or motion. So we help plan to help them choose the products and selections that are best for what their plan is, and then help them execute it so they can actually get the full value out of it instead of just sort of getting value or getting some value, but not enough.
That's great. That's really congruent with what we see in the profession at large, is that I think there's a great opportunity for impact when CEOs choose to go deep with a certain system that they know is the right path for them, instead of spreading themselves thin and learning a lot about a few things, or a little about a few things, several different options for people. And I just think what you're saying is like, hey, let's provide some clarity for this. Let's provide a system, and this is a thing that a person could follow without with professional service that doesn't have that person grasping at all sorts of different shiny things.
Correct.
So that's good. So what does that look like from you guys? You know, if a CEO is listening to this and we're saying, okay, what kind of an ROI could we expect by investing in the system or products? I know you have several things, but talk to us a little bit about that. How does one engage with you, and what kind of a return can a person expect?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think the easiest way to highlight that, this is just one aspect of the business that's really powerful, that I think is a nerve that will resonate well with the listeners, is a lot of your chiropractors, specifically as they're implementing the TRP systems, are going to increase their business revenue, which increases their personal revenue, which also comes with the effect of now you have to pay more taxes. But the issue is that a lot of chiropractors start in a place where they need a middle class accountant, an accountant that is a services mainly middle class individuals, but their growth is going to take them out of the middle class representation, but their accountant can no longer service them to the best of their ability. It doesn't mean that that accountant sucks at their job, or they're a crappy person, or they're purposely manipulating you or being too conservative. It's just that their focus is middle class people. And so one thing that you probably will have to do is jump up a level to a non-middle class accountant. And we like to use the phrase a generational income, because you've moved into a generational income type of a level. A lot of the doctors over their career are going to make probably 15 to 20 million dollars, and some are going to make 20 to 30 to 40 million dollars. That's not middle class wealth. That's not middle class income, but their professionals are going to treat them just like they treat all their other clients, which is very middle class. So you have to have a non-middle class accountant, and we offer that for people. So the ROI around that is that you're going to have a very strategic plan around the way that you plan, around the way you do taxes. So it's no longer you wait to the end of the year, you provide them with all your documents, and they tell you what you pay. And then maybe they say, well, we could have done this or that, but it's already too late. You already missed out the opportunity to save the taxes. So it's on the other side of it, is we're proactively planning quarterly through the year so that we can hit that end. And we've already done all the tax strategies. We've already done everything, and we know what we've done to lower our tax bill. So the ROI on that is that happens year after year after year. The average business owner pays about, the data ranges, but usually it's around per $250,000 of income. It's probably in the ballpark of $12,000 a year extra in taxes if they don't plan. So if we can help you keep that 12,000 and then drive that into assets, either back to your business or into other assets, now you have not only saved the 12,000, but you've turned it into something. So the ROI is hundreds of thousands, it's millions of dollars extra in your portfolio when you reach the end, which again, driving back to this whole conversation we've been talking about, is that's 100,000, hundreds of thousands, millions more to give you the permission to go leave a bigger impact, to help more people, to see more people, to how can I expand my business? How can I get into charity more because I have this extra cash, and now I can part with it because I already have everything else covered. So it's all about driving towards that impact, but the ROI of tax planning is massive, and you can't stay with a middle class accountant if you're going to rise into higher impact.
Yeah, man, you spoke about that at our CEO cocktail hour last immersion that we had, and that really struck me as like, what a great message for our practices, what a great message for our CEOs, because it's really congruent again with what we teach, as far as if you really lean into experts and then execute, you can shorten the time window on the results that you're going to get. And that's what I'm hearing you say with that. Man, when we shorten the time window on us getting financial return on tax savings while we increase the service level and the income of our business, that's a huge benefit. So I love that. And you've talked to this somewhat. You really have that mindset on what's next, and that's what we want to keep our CEOs focused on. Is, you know, yes, we're important in guiding our teams as far as what's important now and what's important next. And when we think about our own business with what's next, man, tax planning is just huge for that. And I think you've really addressed that well. So let's give people the opportunity to connect with you. What's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you, to get in contact with you, or to take the next step with Big Life Financial?
Yeah, so if they're like, I'd like to learn more and I want to kind of vet this out a little bit more, there's two avenues for them to do that. Number one is go peruse the website, like you said. So www.biglifefinancial.com. We have lots of resources, blogs, informational articles that you can read just on who we are, our approach, and more importantly, like what is our vision for our clients? Because I think we try and hit that really heavily on the website. Other ways is I have a YouTube channel that I hit a variety of topics. Sometimes it's tax, sometimes it's insurance, sometimes it's more investing related or business exits and business building, just all things finance, that they can start to get a sense of who I am and is this someone I vibe with, or is it, because though I am not everyone in our company, the people that I feel like I represent the type of person that they would be working with in our company. So you can find that at Max Wealth Preserve on YouTube. And I can get you the link for that. But that's a way if they weren't like ready to jump on the calendar and like, I want this now, but they can check things out. Those are two ways. If they are ready to move into like, I'd like a consultation to see if you can help me or not, and this is something that vibes with them and they're interested in that, they can go to www.biglifefinancial.com/TRP, and it will allow them access to my calendar.
That's fantastic. So the YouTube channel, the website in general, and then if people are ready to take action, and of course, everybody, we encourage people to take action. Success is reserved for the action takers. Go to www.biglifefinancial.com/TRP for a special availability to your calendar for our users there.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much to you and to Big Life Financial for being partners. This is exactly the sort of success partner relationship we create. We curate those of you that we get to be success partners specifically because you bring high value to the Remarkable Practice community and to our culture. Thank you for allowing us to keep our eyes on what's next financially, because none of us particularly are trained in that. That's why we lean on you guys as the professionals. Any last words you want to say for people before we wrap today?
The only last thing I'd like to say is, if you choose to stay status quo as you're building your wealth and as you're building your business, you're choosing also to basically put a ceiling, and I like to identify the ceiling as a middle class impact, because you're not being systematic about it, you're not being purposeful about it, you're not actually seeking it. But if you choose to step into, I have something here and I'm bringing a ton of value here and I'm making a ton of money, I'm going to give myself the permission to push past that ceiling and start thinking bigger. You can push into a lot bigger than you can even see the possibility of today, because you've given yourself that permission. So allow yourself to go there. Don't stay status quo on the way you build your business, on the way you handle your finances, on the way you do taxes. Choose to push into what really successful people do, and what really successful people do is implement systems, and that will give you the permission to leave the generational impact.
I love that, guys. That's what we're looking for, right? Anyone who's listening to this is looking for a generational impact. Thank you for providing us an opportunity to step into that from the financial space. Really appreciate you for being here and your support with the Remarkable Practice.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Chris.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.